Rockaways Productions presents The Casey Waters Show, episode 508, My Big Toe by Thomas Campbell, Part 2. Hello, I'm your host, Casey Waters. Well, we got a cat snoring in the background. Today, I will continue with Tropical Storm Helene, Devastation in the Mountains. Here, I describe my experience during and after the storm. The scope of the devastation is immense. Many towns partially or almost totally destroyed. Many lives lost. A true sad situation indeed. Later on, I continue with My Big Toe by Thomas Campbell. Here, the author tries to find a unifying theorem of physics, and also looks at what lies beyond our consciousness. Today's show will feature background footage from the Mountains to Sea Trail. Here, I hiked the section near the French Broad River. To get there, take the Blue Ridge Parkway heading south from US 25 in Asheville, North Carolina. After a few miles, you approach the bridge crossing the French Broad River. Just before the bridge, there's a little pull-off on the left. Once you pull over, you'll see a trail. So I went up and to the left. There were numerous downed trees on the trail, and clusters of trees I had to climb over. Hiking conditions are a little adverse since Tropical Storm Helene caused so much destruction. So now, let's continue with Tropical Storm Helene, Devastation in the Mountains. Well, part of the road was just one lane, with a sheer cliff dropping off where the other lane should be. Even with pavement overhanging the cliff, so just like 3 inches of pavement, 3-inch thick pavement jutting out a foot or so above where the road has been washed out. So it's like a 20-foot drop off, maybe 30 feet, and a little bit of road hanging over about a foot or so of just 3 inches thick tar or 3-inch thick asphalt. Well, the other lane was on solid ground, so I drove on it. Then the road became 2-lane, almost looking like normal. Then it's dirt again, all bumpy because the road must have been washed away. Now it's just 1 lane again, with the sheer cliff drop off, and so on and so on. Finally, I get to the bottom. I only heard about this. Middle Fork Gorge is what my neighbors called it. The road is gone. It is a gorge now. So I get near the bottom, and all of a sudden the road is gone. I did film this portion. It's about the only new footage of the devastation you'll see. Probably on the beginning, on the background footage of this show. So, near the beginning of this section, there'll be the footage of Middle Fork Gorge. What is it? Lots of large rocks and twisted trees where once a road has been. No trace of the road, giant boulders and trees. True devastation. However, they rerouted the road around the devastation. They put in a new dirt road, and thus I was able to drive all the way to the main highway. So I go back up towards Girton, trying to do a big circle, meeting up with the logging road, which is the way into their neighborhood. Well, that is, until they restored the main road. So I go up Girton Highway, US 74A, barely a highway. The same thing, half a lane gone, a sheer cliff dropping off the other side. Very scary indeed. Portions of it rebuilt with dirt, other portions semi-normal with 2 lanes. Anyway, I eventually get back to Girton. Then I decide to go down to Bat Cave at the bottom of the valley. I go down to Bat Cave. The fire department's still standing, even though it was flooded. Up ahead is a state trooper. I go up to him and ask him if Highway 64 is open to Hendersonville. Yes, it is. Somehow they already repaired the bridge that the river took out. So now I could go to Hendersonville on US 64, which is a faster way to get back to Charlotte. So now things are changing. Roads are opening up. Mail is being restored. And what's that I saw on the way out? It was a giant truck turning up Middle Fork Road, going into my neighborhood. On the back of it, a giant spool of cable. I looked at it closer. It looks like internet cable. Soon our internet service will be restored. So, things are improving. I'm getting ready to move back in about a week or less. But many people are still suffering, and many lives were lost, many homes destroyed, many of which I have seen, but not filmed. I just drive by them along the highway. What's left of the highway, that is. So it all continues as we all try to recover from Tropical Storm Helene, devastation in the mountains. Now it is time to continue with My Big Toe by Thomas Campbell. Here, the author looks at, grand unifying theories of physics and what lies beyond our consciousness. So now, let's go to page 301 of My Big Toe by Thomas Campbell. The imperative to implement the fundamental process is the prime mover of progress. AUM is consciousness, as opposed to has consciousness, and it eventually acts, changes states, and evolves through the exercise of will or intent. Self-aware consciousness is in control of itself. If you really want to, for poetic reasons, or really need to, for reasons of emotional comfort, you may say that all beings, our universe, all PMRs and NPMRs, and all of the beings therein are manifestations of AUM's will and made of AUM's substance, self-configuring digital organization. You could also say that we brainy people with our minds full of fully operational and original thoughts and ideas are created in AUM's image, along with a varied collection of thoughtful dogs, cats, foxes, pigs, monkeys, and computers. Don't get lost here. I am talking about our minds, our consciousness, not our adorable little bodies. Now, let's go to page 309 of My Big Toe by Thomas Campbell. The process of improving the quality of your consciousness is a matter of simple evolution, much easier than a fish learning to walk on land and breathe air. Live and learn, do and die. If at first you don't succeed, try again. You know the drill. Take your place alongside the other sentient chunks of individuated digital consciousness, both physical and non-physical. Neither you, nor your species, nor your local reality is more important, special, or superior relative to the gazillions of others. Feelings of superiority developed in relation to other obviously inferior PMR beings and life forms. Mankind is above all other creatures of the earth, or an error of perception that has generated many particularly destructive belief systems and caused much damage to biosphere, Earth, as well as greatly retarded individual human progress toward greater consciousness quality. Because consciousness is an attribute of individuals, all conscious entities are vitally important in their own way. Each has its own mission and purpose and is an important contributor to the whole. All are different. All have their own challenges, and none is fundamentally superior or inferior. Now, let's go to page 315. The situation is neither hopeless, nor random, nor beyond your control. It is not even that difficult. Let's talk a moment about free will and making choices. What we do is not of primary importance. Why we do it is what counts. The intent or motivation is the choice. Thus, our free will choices are primarily choices of motivation and intent. Why we do what we do. Only secondarily are they choices of doing. What we actually do, the action we take, is the first result of our choice of intent and drives a feedback mechanism, which is very good but not perfect, particularly in the short term. Now, let's go to page 327 and continuing on to page 328 of My Big Toe by Thomas Campbell. Additionally, AUM, in its effort to facilitate the fundamental process in optimizing 3D spacetime, would need to assemble a broad assortment of 3D implementations in order to provide good statistical sampling across a variety of 3D results. It would be risky and very bad science for AUM to base its conclusions about the profitability of 3D space solely on our PMR performance. That may explain why I have run into many PMR like sub realities during my explorations of the larger reality. Some appear to utilize a space-time that is similar to our own, while others operate under rule sets that are obviously quite different from ours. The variety of life forms, habitats, and reality dimensions within just NPMR N is immense. Where there are few inhibiting constraints, the fundamental process produces great diversity. Evolution explores all significant options within reach, but progresses and maintains only those that are profitable. AUM must be getting a significant return on its investment in 3D. How do I know? Because we, and many others, are here. Evolution doesn't mourn the victims, failed experiments of its relentless pursuit of profit. If we are here, we are profitable, or at worst, the profitability of the process of which we are a part has not yet been determined. Now, let's go to page 333 of My Big Toe by Thomas Campbell. So moving on to page 333, if I could find it. Here it is. To summarize, conscious intent can create and manipulate thought forms by generating or modifying the thought forms, defining content within a subset of memory. True to the typical recursive nature of evolving systems, unconsciousness exercising intent has the ability to manipulate the consciousness energy, digital organization, of which itself and others are composed. This fact allows an individuated consciousness to create thought forms and to affect other consciousnesses and thought forms directly through an intent-driven exchange of digital energy and organized and organizational content. Energy is normally defined as the ability or capacity to do work, to affect a change. Digital energy has the ability to change digital content and modify digital structure. In other words, digital energy has the ability to rearrange bits, to organize and reorganize, to increase or decrease entropy and synergy within a system. A system has potential digital energy if it has the potential to be organized or structured more profitably. That is, structured in such a way as to reduce its average entropy. Now, let's go to page 339. Do not fall into an anthropomorphic trap and imagine AUM to be a sentient being thinking thoughts as we do, scratching its eternal head and wondering, where do I want to go today? AUM is an involved mind being system that we cannot objectively understand because we are limited beings with minds that are only partially aware and partially used. The idea that an average the idea that an awareness constrained to physical perceptions within a virtual space-time physical reality would find it difficult to perceive its roots in a non-physical superset of its existence. It should be very easy for you to understand. Dimension can be seen as a separate memory or calculation space within digital mind, or as a practical separator between realities with different rule sets. Dimensional separators are often porous. To understand why, we can look at our own multidimensional universe. A more accurate description of space-time based humanoids is that they are individuated units of conscious awareness who constrain a portion of their consciousness to a sense-limited 3D experiential physical reality. We can, through the doorway of our subjective mind, learn to transcend the barriers of dimension. Being aware and operant in multiple dimensions is what allows the big picture to come into sharp focus through first-hand experience. Exploring the multidimensional properties of your consciousness enables you to examine AUM and the nature of your reality scientifically from the inside rather than hypothetically from the outside. Thus, you can see how important it is that you do not allow your ignorance, fear, and belief to shut off this incredibly important pathway to a greater understanding. Now, let's go to page 340. AUM is not merely a smarter monkey with a good imagination living in a big house, as evolving systems, software, hardware, political, social, biological, technological, organizational, or consciousness become complex with self-modifying feedback interactions popping up everywhere. They need to regulate, police themselves. They evolve structure, rules, leaders, bosses, evaluators, judges, and social workers. The function of leadership, control, and value-based decision-making. Think of AUM as a hugely complex consciousness system. AUM is not perfect. AUM just is. It evolved to be how it is. Things evolve to be functional, not to meet some philosophical ideal of perfection. The rules and their enforcement are not perfect. There are loopholes and crimes that go unpunished. AUM is real, a real thing, not some idealized metaphor. A system as large and interactive and complex as AUM has rules, methodologies, and functions to control and optimize the system's performance and the profitability of its output. In NPMRN, there exist organization and competing purposes as well as conflict and cooperation. There are bosses, judges, and other authorities, many of which we PMR beings, next dimension down, have made into our gods. Now, let's go to page 358, continuing on to page 359 of My Big Toe by Thomas Campbell. An evolving digital consciousness system, which is the same as a digital system of self-organizing energy called consciousness, experiences the following: decreasing entropy, increasing synergy, a greater ability to do work, profitably organized to produce intended results, an increase in the available and useful system energy, a conversion of digital potential energy into actualized digital energy, more profitable organization through intentional self-modification, the development of a more powerful and capable digital system, increasing quality and spiritual growth, all are essentially different expressions of the same thing. If you equate the decrease of a digital system's entropy with the increase of its energy and synergy, you got the picture and an adequate understanding of how these words are being used. In the Casey Waters Show, producer Casey Waters, graphic editing Judson Laird. Please note our new email address, CaseyWaters2 @CaseyWaters.com.